In the Limpopo region of South Africa lies an ancient land. Forged by water, today it provides life to many. From rolling grasslands to rocky gorges, wildlife has learnt to make the most of what's on offer. At its heart, life-giving waters burst from giant rocks and spread across the landscape, supporting everything from miniatures to the masses. This is the Waterberg, a land of plenty. The Waterberg runs from west to east for over 90 miles. Lying in the northeastern corner of South Africa, it sprawls across an area of over 5,500 square miles and makes up the first UNESCO reserve in the region. Created by mineral-rich rivers almost 2 billion years ago, it is so old it has been around for longer than terrestrial life itself. Today it stands at the center of an incredibly diverse landscape of open grassy plains, bushveld savanna, rocky gorges, ravines, and cliffs that tower up to 2,000 feet high. But it's the bedrock of these mountains that holds their greatest gift. Bands of porous rock soak up water like a sponge, storing it in underground aquifers. Once full, they pour out of the mountains themselves, giving rise to the name Waterberg, or Water Mountain. As they descend, the waterfalls and streams merge, creating rivers that carve their way through the landscape. As they shape the land, they also support a rich variety of life. Grazers feast on the lush grass of the plateau's rolling plains. In the lowlands, sprawling savanna stretches as far as the eye can see. And present throughout is water. Streams, rivers, dams and waterholes bind the landscape together. This diverse wilderness is the setting for many natural dramas. Battles will be fought, mates will be won, and a new generation will be born. But all will rely on the Waterberg for sustenance. The annual rains arrive in November and can last for up to 5 months. Their arrival ushers in a time of plenty in the Waterberg. Animals are preoccupied with one thing: eating their fill. This is a time to bulk up. Grazers move in large mixed herds, feasting on the bounty. After months of drought, the grass is the quickest to take advantage of the landscape's renewed moisture. More than 200 different species grow in the Waterberg, offering a banquet to all manner of herbivores. And the elephants are amongst those cashing in. They have one of the most varied diets of all herbivores, eating everything from leaves to roots and bark. But with the coming of the rainy season, they shift their focus to the sweet new growth of tender grass. It is also the perfect time of year to raise young. With the abundance of food on offer, mothers are full of milk and in prime condition to support the next generation. For many antelope, the first few days of life are spent hidden away among the long grass, safe from unwanted attention. But as soon as they are fit enough to follow their mothers, they rejoin the herd. And within 4.5 months, they'll be fully independent. For others in the grasslands, the introduction to herd life is much swifter. Blessbok mothers give birth surrounded by others. The lambs will stand within 5 to 10 minutes and walk within 20. This ensures the young are ready to flee as soon as possible, making them less vulnerable. It is a technique that has been adopted by a number of the grazers. Wildebeest and zebra newborns are quick learners. They too are up and running in a matter of minutes. But for the wildebeest, there's more to things than just being able to run. Timing is everything. Up to 90% of calves will drop in the space of a 3-week period, coinciding with the coming of the rains. And if you want to survive, you better arrive on time. When pursued by predators, a wildebeest's best hope is to mix in with the fleeing herd. But youngsters have tan coats, making them easy for predators to single out. In the 2 months it takes for a darker coat to grow, some calves will be lucky, some will not. While escaping danger is the primary concern for many, there are those who have little to fear from the local predators. White rhino calves have formidably armed parents to look after them. The youngsters will spend the first 2 to 3 years of their lives with their mothers, staying side by side under her protection until she calves again. But for the grazers, timing the birth of their offspring with the arrival of the rains gives them the best chance of survival and results in a sudden increase in herd members. But despite all their best efforts, it doesn't go unnoticed. Lions patrol the grasslands and savannas on the lookout for an easy meal. The herd's many pairs of eyes watch back, and the age-old battle of predator versus prey continues. But sometimes the danger lies closer to home. A male zebra must fight off the challenge of a rival in order to secure sole breeding access to his harem of females. Fights can be fierce. A combination of biting and high-powered kicks is used to secure victory. The waterberg provides a home for huge numbers of creatures. And it is not only out on the grasslands where this can be witnessed. The mountain range is home to one of the rarest animals on the planet. the Waterberg copper. Thought to have gone extinct in the 1980s, it was recently rediscovered living on a small plateau. A microhabitat no larger than 7.5 acres has harbored the species and sheltered it from the encroachment of the modern world. It is an amazing story of survival against the odds. The Waterberg copper requires a unique set of conditions to reproduce and has a fascinating life cycle. It will only lay eggs near one of 2 host plants. And a particular species of sugar ant must have a nest within the vicinity. The ants build their homes in sandy soil, close to wetlands, making the Waterberg the ideal environment for them. This is the only place in the world where these butterflies are known to exist. Females lay their eggs in the sand. Once hatched, the caterpillars live within the ant nest. But by night, the ants escort the caterpillar to the host plant, where it feeds. There is a reason the ants go to so much trouble to accommodate and protect the caterpillars. As they feed, they produce a sweet honeydew secretion from glands on their abdomen, which the ants find irresistible. Ants are one of the few creatures in the world that farm other animals. In this incredible symbiotic relationship, both the ant and the butterfly are rewarded. For the security of their nest, the ants receive an invaluable food source, and the caterpillars are provided with a safe place to grow and develop. During its next stage of life, the Waterberg copper transforms into a stunning butterfly. The bright colors are a warning to predators. It's poisonous. While feeding on the toxic host plants, the caterpillars absorb the poisons, retaining them through their metamorphosis into adulthood. Not all of the Waterberg's residents have such an intricate life cycle, but there are some who face the same pressures of extinction. White rhino populations are being decimated throughout southern Africa by an insatiable demand for their horn from Asia. In traditional Asian medicine, rhino horn is thought to cure illness and guarantee good health. It is a problem that is affecting parks and reserves across the region, including the Waterberg. Drastic measures are being taken, and armed guards are posted throughout the area. It is a battle that must be won if the rhino is to have a chance of survival in the wild. But for now, life is good for the Waterberg's rhino. There is plenty of grass, which makes up their entire diet. An inability to lift their heads above shoulder height, combined with poor eyesight, means they must rely mainly on their sense of smell and hearing to detect threats. Big ears move independently, focusing in on the direction of sounds like huge satellite dishes. Their inability to lift their heads above shoulder height means that they are unable to swim and can't submerge themselves completely. Rhinos are dependent on the presence of water, often drinking twice a day to quench their thirst. The waterholes are a common meeting place for the large mammals, and they offer more than just drinking water. Wallowing serves many purposes. It discourages and removes irritating insects like ticks. But it is also a bit of fun. Elsewhere in the country, elephant herds can walk for many days in their search for food, often going without water. But here in the Waterberg, they never go thirsty. Once refreshed, the muddy elephants find a scratching post and rub up against it, dislodging any unwanted passengers in the process. Returning to the same waterholes and rivers year after year, their favorite trees become smoothed over time. But some itches require a little extra soothing. The hot, wet months of the rainy season see a boom in insect numbers. Swarms of flies follow the herds. For the buffalo, it seems there is a price to pay for the abundance of food and water. The grassland's largest animal has developed another technique for keeping the invaders at bay. Elephants don't only bathe in the water, they also cake their skin with soil to avoid biting and sucking insects. While the insects are a nuisance for most, they are an opportunity for others. Golden orb spiders are prepared for the infestation. One of the oldest types of spider in existence, they hold the crown for the world's strongest spider's web. Spun from yellow silk, it is maintained on a daily basis, ensuring it is as sticky as possible. It's done the job. Neurotoxic venom is injected, immobilizing the victim. Before it is wrapped in silk, taken deeper into the nest, and stashed. With so much food available in the Waterberg at this time of year, the spider stores some for a later date. Throughout the Waterberg, predators are taking advantage of the new food on offer. Whirligig beetles feed on other aquatic insects. Compound eyes allow them to see both above and below the water. and their ability to turn sharply helps them evade larger predators, casting neat circular shadows on the stream bed. Of all the animals benefiting from the glut of food, the oxpecker is one of the most successful. Attaching themselves to a host, they rid the animals of their parasites. Ticks, fleas, and almost anything that moves stand no chance against their nimble beaks. Perfectly equipped for this life, they have evolved a number of adaptations. Short legs and sharp claws help them grip their host, and an incredible feeding technique of combing hair with their beaks has allowed them to thrive. Known as scissoring, it is a very effective method for them to find food. But despite their reputation, some oxpeckers seem to have a darker side. Individuals have been witnessed feeding from wounds. It is believed that some oxpeckers have developed a taste for the blood they find within the ticks they feed on. And they have been observed opening up existing wounds on their host animal's hide in order to drink their blood. By keeping the wound open in this way, the bird gets a constant supply of blood, but it also exposes the host to an increased risk of infection. It seems not all oxpeckers are as helpful as we once thought. Throughout the Waterberg, the daily search for food has driven creatures to adapt. While many utilize the daylight hours, others emerge after dark. The lesser bush baby. Sleeping in groups of up to 7 during the day, they spend the night foraging alone. Tree sap makes up a large part of their diet and is vital to their survival during the winter months. But tonight, there is more than just sap on the menu. The abundance of insect life has caught the bush baby's attention. Long hind limbs and short forelimbs make them well adapted to launching attacks from vertical branches. Feeding on a range of arthropods, they are one of the night's most accomplished predators. For another mammal, the search for insects is not all about food. A troop of vervet monkeys bask in the morning sun. Ranging all the way from South Africa to Ethiopia, they are found in healthy numbers in the Waterberg. Living in large groups, they are highly social. And one of the best ways of reinforcing bonds is by grooming. Relatives sift through one another's fur, removing any parasites. Grooming is commonly used as a courtship strategy, as it brings males and females into close proximity to one another. It is vital to the troop's success. For the vervets, the Waterberg's rains will provide a glut of fruits to see them through the dry months. Despite the abundance the waters bring, some creatures still rely on the dry and dead in order to find what they need. A bearded woodpecker is on the hunt for a meal. He uses a sharp, barbed tongue to remove anything he uncovers. Unlike the Waterberg's other insectivores, bearded woodpeckers feed mainly on wood-boring beetles and their larvae, which can be found all year round. As well as helping locate a tasty meal, drumming on trees also helps him establish a territory and attract a mate. The hollow tree acts as the perfect megaphone. Another of the Waterberg's feathered inhabitants doesn't need to drink. In fact, ground hornbills don't need to drink at all. They can survive entirely on the moisture in their food. These unusual creatures are the largest hornbills in the world and can live for over 60 years. Spending most of their day searching the savannas for food. Ground hornbills are predominantly carnivorous, feeding on a large range of insects, reptiles, amphibians, and even small mammals and birds. Living in groups of up to 12 individuals, they occupy and vigorously defend large territories, reaching 38 square miles. These groups normally have one breeding pair, and as a species, they have one of the slowest reproductive rates in the bird world. On average, they breed successfully every 9 years. Females always lay 2 eggs, 3 to 5 days apart. The first chick to hatch invariably outcompetes the second, which will be killed by its elder sibling or starved to death. The surviving chick then takes another 6 years to reach adulthood. These birds have evolved to survive in the harshest of environments. But in the Waterberg, they are provided with more than they need. Although water doesn't play a key role in all life cycles, it impacts most. And most animals couldn't exist without it. The Waterberg's water levels are dictated by the rains, but there are areas of permanent water. Rivers and waterholes remain full year-round. These wetlands provide a residence for a host of animals. But one group appears in more variety than most. The Waterberg's rivers, streams and waterholes teem with birds of many shapes and sizes. Wattled lapwings patrol the wetland fringes. Terrestrial birds, they never venture into deeper water. This domain is reserved for true waterfowl. Unlike the lapwing, knob-billed ducks are buoyant, allowing them to float on the water's surface. This ability allows them to reach the rich aquatic grasses and water lilies other birds can't. Some have taken life on the water a stage further. Cormorants feed exclusively on fish. Special feathers allow water to penetrate, enabling the birds to swim well underwater as they chase their prey. After fishing, cormorants stand in a characteristic pose with wings out and neck extended. Originally thought to dry their wings, it is now also considered to aid digestion by helping the birds swallow fish. Darters and grebes have evolved the same technique for fishing. And all can be found along the permanent water sources of the Waterberg. While many have mastered life under the water, one has adapted to a life on top of it. African jacanas spend their lives foraging on floating lily pads. They even build their nests here. In what is known as lily trotting, elongated toes enable them to spread their weight enough to stop them sinking. It is an adaptation that has allowed them to conquer a habitat few other birds can, meaning all the more insects for them to feed on. The birds are not the only ones feeding here. Hippos spend the majority of their day in the water and have evolved a number of adaptations as a result. Their ears fold closed when submerged, and flick open in a flurry when surfacing. High ridged eyes protrude above the water, and nostrils have evolved to seal shut while swimming. Adults can spend up to 5 minutes below the surface. And surfacing is as instinctive as breathing itself, even in their sleep. Feeding out of the water mainly at night, days are spent digesting, sleeping, and socializing. Hippos are so at home in their aquatic habitat, calves are able to suckle underwater. There are others who depend on the Waterberg's permanent oases. Modern-day dinosaurs, their adaptations have evolved over millions of years. Crocodiles' ears are now just slits, and their eyes are coated in a protective membrane. They are the ultimate freshwater predator. Lying undetected in the water, they ambush animals as they come down to drink. Rows of deadly teeth drag prey into the depths, holding them there until they drown. For many, the dependence on water is because it provides food. And crocodiles are not the only reptiles patrolling the Waterberg. Water monitor lizards bask in the sun. Like crocodiles, they need to warm up before heading off to hunt. They are also perfectly adapted to their habitat. Once warmed, they head to the water's edge to fish. At home, in or out of the water, a long, powerful tail powers them along, while long nails and sharp claws are perfect for catching prey. They are not the only ones relying on the waters to provide a meal. It's not long before their patience is rewarded. The monitor lizards, hammerkops and herons all have different techniques. But the result is always the same. Waterberg supports a diverse mix of habitats and a host of creatures. ancient and deadly to the weird and wonderful. Almost all have come to depend on the land's waters for food and shelter. It is an ever-present life source in the mountain of life.